Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of the Happy Head podcast. My name is Paul and I'm your host today. And I have the amazing Alison Arnoff all the way from just outside of Los Angeles. And it's kind of like 7 a.m. there. So thank you for getting up early and getting yourself presentable. I mean, I spent hours and hours looking like this, just becomes a habit. But yeah, it's great to have you on the podcast. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Good morning. Nice to be here.
Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, because it's 3 p.m. where I am.
Yes.
And just before we kind of went live, we were talking about the thing that everybody has been talking about for a while now, and COVID and what have you, and what we were going to talk about, because as you know, with this podcast, there's no kind of fixed agenda. And I was saying, can we talk about this, and this? And I said, well, look, let's just have a conversation. So welcome, Alison. How are you doing today? What's going on in your life at the moment?
Well, we're just really enjoying now that my circle and a lot of us are vaccinated, just being able to start enjoying life again. It was nice this 4th of July to be able to go to a barbecue with friends and touch them and hug them and be inside and go to a outdoor concert. So we're really enjoying the return to mostly normal right now. So that's been the big excitement around here right now.
Yeah, that's a great phrase, actually, mostly normal, because here in the UK, we've got another couple of weeks before everything goes back to what we think is normal. But the question is there ever going to be a normal again? Because the Prime Minister has been talking about, lifting all the restrictions, but it's down to kind of like the individual person, if they want to wear masks or not. And I was thinking, well, where do people wear masks pre-COVID? And I was thinking, like, in certain towns in China and Japan, where the pollution level is so high, millions of people wear masks as a kind of normal everyday thing. But outside of those areas, there's a very, very tiny percentage. So it's going to be interesting to see, what the new normal becomes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to still be wearing them for a lot of us in grocery stores, inside places, just because even though we're vaccinated, we could still be a carrier. And so we want to protect others and not be responsible for spreading it. So I think when we feel like we can put others at risk, we'll be wearing it out of care for others.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's like if you work in an office and you have a cold, if you're a good person, you stay off work, you take a day off so that you don't spread it. If you're not such a good person, you become a martyr. You go to and sniffing and coughing and sneezing over everybody. And then within 24 hours, the entire office is down with the cold. Of course, if you're a man, it's man flu and you've got to be bedridden for a week.
Definitely.
So we're talking earlier on, and you said you kind of traveled all over the place, all by yourself. Have you ever been to kind of China or Japan?
No, the only place I've been in Asia, I've only been to Thailand and Indonesia are my only two Asian. I've been spending a lot of time in islands and in Latin America, seem to be, and then Europe, but I haven't spent Australia and New Zealand. My dog's named Kiwi after one of my adventures in New Zealand, but so far just Thailand and Indonesia for Asia.
I've never been either. I mean, I've been to the States, I've been all over Europe. I've not kind of been outside of that area at the moment, but you never know, one day. So you've been to South America. Where in South America have you visited?
Oh, well, I've been to Belize 5 times. I've been to Guatemala 4 times, Costa Rica a couple times. I've been to Peru, hiked Machu Picchu. I've been to Chile. Where else? I know more. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. That's about what I remember right now.
That's a lot of places because, South America, a lot of people don't realize is absolutely massive, isn't it? It's a giant continent.
It is, and certain countries, like a lot of Americans don't go to Guatemala, and, there are parts to avoid, but it's such a beautiful country. So that's been my lately, as soon as it feels safe to go down there again, I will be going back down there. I have some favorite spots that just are amazing. I found a place where it's really hard to get to, very long, bumpy road, but then you're on a hut on a river at the end of a finger of a river where you can just lay in your hammock and read a book and just eat dinner with people from all over the world. And it's pretty amazing. No way to get there except by boat.
Yeah, the simple life, really. It's a great thing to do when you go on vacation, because a lot of people kind of go from home to a replica of home, like maybe a fancy hotel or an apartment for a couple of weeks, and then kind of just transpose the life they had here into a new country for a couple of weeks, but actually to go to a little hut in the middle of nowhere, it really is changing things up, isn't it?
Well, it's just about letting go. Here there's so many, for me, there's so much expectations in so many ways in life. And when you travel to places like that that are have, I don't want to say simple, but are simpler, I find the best version of myself. I find the one that is fine with no makeup and a ponytail and just sitting and talking to people. And it isn't about your degree or what you've done. It's just who you are as a human in those moments. And it's just beautiful. And people that travel like that will go places like tend to be amazing, wonderful people with fascinating stories. It's like you and I sitting here and having this conversation. You get to do that every day with amazing people. And then, now with the advent of social media, you've been able to keep in touch with those people. When I first started traveling, we didn't have all of that. So now there's this wonderful thing where you have these connections all over the world, and that you hopefully get to reconnect with them again.
God, yeah. I mean, I did a lot of my traveling in the 80s, and there weren't even kind of mobile phones or digital cameras pretty much in that area. So um, I get what you're saying, because when you're traveling, I did a lot of hitchhiking, and you get to meet people that have incredible stories, the places they've visited, the people they've met, and you kind of live your life through them vicariously because of the stories that they say. And interestingly, most of the people that I've met who have traveled extensively are great storytellers as well. So it's not like, well, I was in this town for 2 weeks and I swam and I did this and that. They talk about the people and the food and the atmosphere and the culture and the experiences, and they really bring the place to life, which is one of the reasons why I just love to that kind of travel, that simple travel.
Well, and everything's an adventure. I mean, I'll talk about like the first time I went to this lake in Guatemala that has 17 villages, and I speak some broken Spanish, but I get dropped off at a dock in fall weather and getting on a boat trying to figure out how to get to my which village, and the boat is already packed. I'm the only gringo there. Fortunately, I travel light, and I'm literally climbing over people to get to that one seat in the middle of the boat, and just trying. And I don't know. I know my village is like the fifth one down, but I don't know where this thing stops. And the tarp was down on it because it was raining. And I said I speak broken Spanish, and I literally just looked at the woman next to me and said, "Va a Santiago? Are you going to Santiago?" And she said yes. And I'm like, okay, wherever she gets off, I get off. I mean, and it's just, and I just literally started laughing because I love that I'm the kind of person that literally just got dropped off and just get on a boat, not knowing exactly what I am doing, but know everything would be okay. And that's the start of the adventure. And so I love that there are these little moments that just add so much more color than, yeah, I got on the ferry that took me to this dock, right? It's just, there's so many little, when you travel, you just appreciate those little moments a little differently, because they're just part of the rich experience of just figuring out, how am I going to get here? I know I'll get there. I don't know how it will take, I don't know if I'll have to pay someone extra, but I'll just figure it out.
Yeah, that's what makes travel. It's the little moments. At the time, they might be a little bit scary, they might be a little bit inconvenient, but when you kind of look back on it, that's what makes the vacation. That's what makes the trip.
Oh yeah, I mean, I went to hike. I quit my job one year to go back to New Zealand to hike the Great Walks. I was a competitive triathlete at that point, so I was very fit, but I never backpacked, and I was ill prepared for my equipment. And on the second trek, my 7-year-old shoes, on the second day, the sole of my shoe came off. Now, this is a trek, the Milford Trek, one of the best walks in the world. You get dropped off at one end and picked off on the other. It's not like I could just go back down and grab another pair of shoes. And so the whole story, and then there's, it was pouring rain. I had a Gap raincoat because I didn't know what quality raincoat was. I had a little Gap anorak. Gap, I don't know if you have Gap in England. It's an American clothing store. And, and then I didn't bring enough food, snack food, because I'd carried too much before. So I'm wet. My sole of my shoe has fallen off. My foot is completely bloody from the sole of the shoe not having shape and shifting. I'm hungry, and I still have 3 days to go to trek. And so there's so many layers to that story about how people helped me, and how we got duct tape and it fell apart again, and borrowing food, and just begging a raincoat off the ranger. I mean, there's so many. I can tell like a 30-minute version of that story, but it's these moments that it's just wonderful, because for me, when I got off that hike, both feet are bloody now. tossed my shoes up in a tree. I had 36 hours before I was supposed to leave on my next trek. Well, it took me 12 years to get back there. I quit my job to go there. I was not going to be denied. So these people taught me how to bundle up my feet as best I could. And I went on the next trek. And there was like, 18 hours of daylight at that point. So I figured I'll just take my time. And the second day of that trek was one of the most beautiful days of my entire life. I mean, you're walking along this ridge with a beautiful valley and river below and snow-capped mountains on the other side. And you can see out in the distance to the fjords, and nobody else is around because I'm like hiking so slow. And it was one of the most beautiful moments. And if I'd given into the pain of my feet or listened to people telling me I shouldn't hike again with my feet, I would have missed out on one of the moments of pure joy that I've ever had in my life. And so there's just so many little stories. And I love that story because it wasn't really about getting through the other hike. It was about finding the fortitude to keep going despite those obstacles. And there's so, when you talk to any traveler, we all have dozens of these stories that just really shape us and show us who we are and what we're made of. And it's so beautiful. And when you travel by yourself, there's another part of you that has to figure out how to figure it out. Like you don't lean on somebody else. And so there's such great personal growth in those experiences too.
Yeah, and it takes a certain kind of mindset because a lot of people would probably have given up as soon as the sole of their shoe had collapsed and gone, I can't handle this. It's just not what I'm used to. I haven't got the right gear. And they would have just kind of turned around and gone back. But you have the kind of mindset that says, you know what, yeah, it's an inconvenience, but there's people around me that are going to help me and we'll figure a way through it. And I think, in a way, a lot of people just wouldn't have taken that extra step and figured out, how to ask for help, how to kind of find a solution and how to keep going.
Yeah, it's about betting on yourself. I guess I will always bet on myself. And I also know that, there's a lot of people like me out there that would help. That trek, there was a group of Canadians that were traveling together. And like on the second day, they saw me limping and bleeding coming up the hill and took my pack off, bandaged my feet, made me food, found the ranger to help screw the bottoms of my shoes back on, got the duct tape, gave me some snack food. They couldn't, and so on my next trek, I met some women who weren't ill prepared, and I was able to pay it forward and give them food and give them, all of that. And it's just, you just meet these amazing people that are going, that have that same spirit of, if you're going to go be out here, we're going to take care of you as well.
Yeah, there's an interesting point you just raised there, Alison. This thing about paying it forward, because people never expect anything in return when they help you, but naturally you help other people when the time comes. And like I said, I hitchhike an awful lot when I was a kid, and now if I'm out and about in the car and I see someone who wants a lift, I give them a lift.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of what goes around comes around kind of thing.
It can be a simple thing like, when you have a cart at the grocery store full and there's someone behind you with one or two things and you let them go ahead and they thank you. It's just, hey, just pay it forward. Just return the favor the next time you have the full cart, right? It just can be that simple. It doesn't always have to be this big magnanimous thing, right? It could just be good.
Yeah, and it's zero cost as well. It's like you make someone's day kind of by just saying, "Look, it's okay. You go forward. I can wait. I'm not in a rush." Yeah, and they go, "Oh wow, humanity still exists," because we are kind of drilled to a certain extent into believing that it's dog eat dog, and there's no love, there's no kind of paying it forward, there's none of that kind of stuff in the world anymore. But I find that to be completely false. Pretty much every day I see acts of kindness, even tiny little things, as you say, from people from all walks of life.
Yeah, I won't subscribe to the narrative of dog eat dog. If I don't hang, I'm very blessed with amazing, wonderful people. And it's just not that hard. If I'm walking and I see someone looking a little down, I might just be like, great shoes or cool shirt or just a little thing. And you can just see them fill and smile. And it took what, 3 seconds for me just to say, those are really cool shoes. And because sometimes you can feel like this person needed some joy for that moment. It really doesn't cost anything to be a good person and spread joy.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is how we look at the world, because a lot of people look at the world through lots of negative experiences they've been through, and so they see that everything is dog eat dog, and that's what they kind of get. Whereas other people like yourself kind of see the world as being a really cool place, and so you get to meet cool people and have cool experiences. Because from my experience and also from my clients' experiences, your mind goes where you tell it to. So if you tell it to go in, yes, life is pretty much a good thing, then that's what you get. If you go, oh my God, life is really, really awful, blah, 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 you get that. And I know from both sides, because I've suffered from depression for a long time. And a lot of my life was that, everything is bad, everything is dark, everything is unhappy, everything is sad. And that's what I got most of the time. But once I was able to kind of get out of that and look at things differently, then my life changed and my perspective changed and the people that came into my life changed as well. So it's all about, in my view, how you think about how the world is and who you are in that.
Well, it's about, bad things happen and they mean something, but I think the big discipline is to not make them mean everything.
Mm.
I talk about with my clients a lot of times, you can feel everything you're feeling and you need to feel. And there's these negative spaces and you're allowed to feel that. No one can tell you don't to feel that, but you can't camp out there. That's not your home. It's something you go through, but you don't stay there. And I think that's the difference, right? Is people who are able to, life is, I've had, many rough spots throughout my life, but I choose to live in what's possible, not what went wrong.
Yeah, I completely agree. We're not talking about living the happy, clappy, kind of like everything is wonderful kind of life. It's about dealing with stuff as it comes along. And then once it's gone, you move on forward with your life. What's that phrase from the Bible? This too shall pass.
Yeah.
Everything is temporary. Our lives are temporary. In the grand scheme of things, we don't even live that long. If you kind of take the timeline of the birth of planet Earth until where we are today, the average human being, I can't even do it that quick. It's probably like a million lives in that time that I've clicked.
Yeah, they say this too shall pass. Things come back up, especially if you have history towards depression and things, or cumulative effects. So they come back. It's not like the things that happen to me don't come back to me sometime. I just acknowledge it. Oh, that's that coming back again. I know what that is, and I know it goes away. So I'll just, so I always want people to think, because I have this positive attitude that I just, everything washes off my back. It's like, no, things happen. It's just how long I choose to let them dominate the emotional spectrum of what I'm going through.
Yeah, something comes along, you deal with it, and then when you're ready, you get on with stuff.
Yeah, and then I always try to look for the lesson of things and things. When I first started coaching, I would be like, what did I do wrong? And it's like, now I have this mantra. It's like, okay, what did I love that I did? What would I like to work on? And what did I learn? And so none of it's negative. It's about growth. It's about acknowledging that where I was in that time was perfect. And as long as I learn and grow, and so it's about just being kinder to yourself in the journey.
Yeah, 100%. I used to be very much, I've done everything wrong. Everything is bad, and it's only until I started realizing that everything that happens to us is actually a lesson which we can choose to learn from or not. And if you choose to learn from it, you can kind of move forward with your life. If you don't, you're kind of on like the wheel of fortune. You just keep going round and around and around, a bit like a hamster on a wheel kind of thing.
Yeah, I call it like a magnetic tornado. Like one thing goes wrong and you start pulling everything in. Last week I accidentally did something and messed up something with somebody and in personal life. And for about 48 hours, I decided I was the worst person in the world because of that one thing. And then, and then it's like, okay, I live a block from the beach, walk down to the beach with the dog and realize that I was human. You said you're sorry. It wasn't that egregious, but it gets caught into that. I call it this magnetic tornado that starts pulling everything. Well, I'm a bad person and everything you do. And it's just, so I have to realize, okay, that's the magnetic, tornado coming back again. And often I find that often when we name the things that are going on and add a little humor to it, we can take a lot of the power away of the situation.
Yeah, I completely agree. Comedy and smiling can help us in lots of difficult situations, which is why I like stand-up comedians, because a lot of stand-up comedians, their material is all about kind of the difficult side of life, but how they kind of like overcome it in a humorous way. And it just, you think, yeah, that's happened to me, but I never saw it like that. And then you kind of go, oh, yeah, it's a different way of looking at things. So yeah, smiling and comedy, really, really, they're great. What's the word I'm looking for? Panaceas.
They're dissipators too, in a way. Like I used to joke around with myself when I had to start in corporate, started doing, presentations or meeting my first, big executives and all of that. And I used to, again, before all this social media, I'd be like, well, what's the worst going to happen? Is someone going to take out a billboard on Times Square in New York that said, Allison was less than perfect, and you just joke around about it. And, some with people, I said, so what's going to happen? Is there going to be this viral tweet if you didn't, if you presented your idea and it didn't like turn into, you didn't get funding or you didn't get that? I mean, so we gotta, we kind of got to start, if we laugh at ourselves a little bit, we realize that again, we make things mean everything and they don't really mean everything. We add so much, we like inflate them so much. And sometimes it's good to find humor to kind of like, okay, you're right. It's not that big of a deal.
God, people would pay for viral tweets today, positive or negative, in most cases, to actually get seen and be heard. But yeah, I get it. We kind of we make a mistake, or we think we're going to make a mistake, and then we kind of go worst case scenario, don't we? It's like, oh my God, I've just, dropped the F-bomb completely by mistake. My life is over. I'm going to get fired. This, and that. And then, you keep piling on all the negativity until all you see is this wall of, oh my God, that's it. I may as well resign. My life is over.
Yeah. We make up, it's funny. And then there's also fear is a lot of that prevents us. And we make up these stories in our heads. And one of my favorite coaches would say, if the stories are all made up anyway, why don't we make up good stories? But in the absence of information, we feel like this need to fill the void with something. And unfortunately, a lot of us fill it with negative stories. And, and it's like that telephone game when you're a kid, right? You story and then it starts morphing into something. And it really was just made up. Like you didn't, you sent a report to your boss or something and you didn't hear and you put all this time into it. And then you start freaking out. And then you find out like 3 days later that his laptop was stolen or he had a meeting or something. It had nothing to do with you. But in the absence of information, we make up so much information.
Yeah, or he didn't even read the report in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, he asked me to do it. That jerk didn't even take the time to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that happen to me a few times when I was in corporate world. You get stressed out and you get upset. Oh, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect. Got to be perfect. And then sort of like a week later, you go, boss, did you see that report? Oh, I didn't have time to read it. Thanks. What? All that pain, all that fear, all that worry, and it's like, well, I didn't get time to read it. I think it's somewhere on my computer. I might get to it one day, eventually, possibly, maybe. So, listen, you had quite a tough time last year, didn't you?
Talking I had a little unique experience last year.
And so what happened?
Well, I had on an easy, I've been an athlete my whole life, so fit, and on an easy bike ride in March, I had some chest pain. And in April, we found out that I potentially was going to have open heart surgery. I had a known anomaly with my valve, but it was under control. It was very mild and wasn't supposed to be an issue till my 70s or 80s. Well, I'm not in my 70s or 80s. And because of COVID, I couldn't get into the hospital to get tested for a while. When they did, it turned out I had to have open heart surgery. And things did not go as planned. They were not able to get me off bypass. And after 9 hours on the table, I was the perfect profile, healthy, young, should have been, and I have a phenomenal surgeon, but somehow the right side of my heart, unbeknownst to us all, was weak. Even though I'm an athlete and adventurer, I am an asthmatic, so they think my asthma had weakened one side of my heart. So after 9 hours, they had to put me in this, it's not a coma, I was in this like suspended animation state for 6 days. I was unconscious. And it's COVID, so nobody's in the hospital with me. So you wake up after 6 days, disoriented, confused. My eyes had dried out during the surgery, so blurred vision and scared to death in the ICU for a couple weeks. And finally, was able to, see again, but I had lost all the strength in my arms and legs. I had to regain strength just to feed myself, and I had lost the ability to walk. And when they started to get me ready for rehab, we found out that my right foot had dropped, which meant the foot was just hanging there. I couldn't lift it or do anything with it. So now I have to learn how to walk with a walker and not trip over my leg at the same time. And so I got home, and 2 days into the walker, I looked at my partner and I said, I'm not walker girl. I'm not using this walker. And I call it these pivotal moments of choice where we have to decide if we're going to be a victim or a victor. And I just said, I'm going to hold on to you. And, whether it went, literally took weeks and weeks and weeks to go from one house to two house to three house till I can get around the block, till I could, and at the same time, because of COVID, I didn't feel safe having a rehab person there to help me with anything, especially the foot. And I figured I know my body better than anybody. So not only am I learning to walk, I'm rehabbing my foot. I unfortunately ended up back in the hospital 2 more times, including needing more surgery. The third time I was about 10 days. I had a collapsed lung and fluid buildup on my heart and lungs, and they had to cut me open to drain it. And so you're in the hospital again. I'm trying not to lose the ability to walk again while I'm in there, and came home the end of July, thankfully for the last time, and just had to start rebuilding my life. In September, after just learning to walk again, I did a 20-mile bike ride, including hills. And in October, I was doing hikes at elevation. And then in November, I'm a stand-up paddleboarder, and I go on a racing board, which is skinny. And I actually got back out in the open ocean, not knowing with my instability in my legs if I'd ever do it again. And so the doctors are amazed at the recovery. But I wanted my life back, so I took it back. But it was a rough year. And then with COVID, nobody could come. Friends were wonderful, dropping off groceries, doing things. There's a whole love story behind this. My partner and I had only been together 4 months when he agreed to be my caregiver, not realizing it was going to be 3 months of not being able to leave me alone. And somehow we got through that, and it's been are amazing and wonderful. So he was sent to me at the right time. So it was just a very different experience, and I'm mostly good now. We're having some medication problems right now, but I'm living a mostly normal life, and trying to inspire people with my story that you can, you get these moments of choice, and I chose to take my life back.
That's the important thing, isn't it? It's making the decision not to kind of put up with the status quo and to take as much back as you possibly can, because a lot of people don't. I've got a very dear friend of mine. She has Marfan syndrome, which is to do with the heart issue, and she didn't know until she was kind of mid to late 30s that she had this, because most people get it or suffer with it when they're really, really young. And again, open heart surgery and the whole thing. Now, there are people with the same kind of challenge, but that approach it in a different way. They spend all the time at home, they spend all the time complaining and blah, blah, blah. Whereas she said, no, that's not me. That's not who I am. I'm just going to do what I can to have as much of a normal life as possible. So it's definitely about making that decision of making the best of whatever has happened and moving forward. Absolutely.
Well, it's also having, I'm a big believer in everybody needs a champion or multiple champions. And I had a champion. So even when I didn't feel like going for the walk, it's like, okay, we're going. And I was used to that when I was doing triathlons. My running partner and I, after work, would call, do you want to go? No. Do you want to go? Okay, I'll see you in 10 minutes. So, I'm used to that kind of, I don't feel like doing it, and having that partner that, you're at the edge, and they can just easily, come on, okay, we want you want to get better, let's go. And so definitely having a champion who believed in you. I mean, he knew all along that I'd be back to this point. That was never a doubt for him. And so it was nice that I wanted it, he saw it, and together we made it happen. Yeah. So having a champion is really important.
Yeah, having a champion.
You should be your own best champion, but you should also have other champions in your life.
Yeah, you've got to have, champions, coaches, mentors, people that are around you with kind of the same mental attitude as you. The like-minded people.
Sometimes people who can see the greatness in you that you, for that moment, might not be seeing in yourself.
Yeah, mentors and coaches. I mean, that's what I mean, because you're a coach as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm an executive and leadership coach, yes.
So you deal with kind of mainly with people in the corporate world?
Well, I do both. I have two sides to my business. So I deal with corporations who want to invest in their leaders or aspiring leaders being, more effective in their teams. And I also work with one-on-one with people. I say that just that want to get out of their own way, that don't know they're in their own way. I talk about, you want, a lot of people are in friction. Everything is harder to do, and you want to get in flow, and it could be mindset or it could be skill set. So either companies hire me to invest in their leaders, or individuals hire me to invest in themselves, to learn what they're doing to get in their own way, so that's stopping them from having the success and the impact they want to have in their life.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of the two main areas: people who recognize that they're stuck and need help, and then kind of the corporate arm that wants to help its own team, to help its team to grow and do better. Because if the team doesn't grow and do better, then the corporation doesn't grow and do better.
Yeah, and I think the misconception is that the people that need coaching are people that are broken. I work with successful people that are trying to figure out how to either make the path a little easier, or to grow and expand, and figure out what they're doing, to get that might be impacting that. So it's not about being broken. It's about maybe getting from an 8 to a 10, or a 10 to a 15, not from a 1 to a 1 to a 2. So I work with really amazing people who are just committed to their growth as humans and as contributors in the world.
That's it. I mean, people that know they need coaching and usually doing pretty well themselves, they just need that. Like, as you've been an athlete always has a coach to encourage them and tweak the performance. And that's what we do as coaches, isn't it? I'm doing well, I want to do better, or I'm stuck at a 7.5, I want to get to a 9. Can you help me get those extra, point and a half?
Well, there's always nice to have someone that can help find your blind spots or your biases that you can't see because you're so close to it, and maybe not someone who's emotionally attached to it. And also someone that can be your champion, right? That can see your gifts, and that you need to magnify them in the workplace. And so and there's so many things, we need to be. Sometimes it's effective communicators, sometimes it's more confidence, sometimes it's getting clarity, sometimes it's understanding how you're coming across. You could be such a strong and successful person and not realize that you're demotivating your teams versus motivating them because of not understanding their world. So there's just so many ways that just having a thinking partner that can help shine the light on things you can't see, good and needs improvement. It's just amazing. I mean, I love having a coach, and my motivation, if you're people that know Simon Sinek, who talks about your why. My why was I was a 30-year woman in tech, and it was tough. It was tough. There were the biases I dealt with, but I also got in my own way a lot because I didn't know. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have someone that was sharing with me how I was coming across or helping me get out of my head. And so now I get to be that person that I always wish I had on my journey for others.
What area of tech were you working in, Alison?
Well, I have a master's in electrical engineering. I actually used to design chips for the government, fault tolerant systems for the government. And then I worked for a lot of hardware companies like Intel and a lot of big software companies. I also worked for 7 startups, and 6 of them either went IPO or got purchased. So, but everything really in the high tech, IT type related technologies.
Why did you decide to kind of leave that part of your life and do something different?
Well, I didn't leave it. I just changed how I show
Well,
up in it. But I mean, my career morphed, right? I went from engineer to sales to marketing, strategy, leadership. But I knew it. I knew in my 30s that the next phase of my life would be service at some point. So I knew at a young age that this wasn't it. And I thought I was going to go back and be a teacher. And then I thought I was going to be a psychologist. And then when I learned about coaching, that was it. And I knew for about 4 years I was going to go to coaching, but I was having a little bit of the guts, having trouble having the guts to do it. Fortunately, my last 2 companies went public, and I unfortunately, when my dad got sick and died, I needed to take time off work, and I decided not to go back, and that was the time to do it. So I coach a lot of people, but I do a lot of coaching in the tech industry. So I'm just and so I'm still involved. I also have a small consulting practice. I still consult tech companies on strategies, so I get to keep my hand in that too. But yeah, I always knew, for a long time that what my real calling in life was, to be in service. I just took a while to figure out what it was and to go do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they say, isn't it? That when the time is right, everything some kind of lines up. So as you said, you kind of morphed through the tech side into I can't think of a better word, but the softer side of things, and then you've come out of that into the coaching world.
Yeah, it's wonderful because it's such a gift to, the people that trust me on their journey, and I meet some of the most amazing people. And how lucky am I that I get to help them step forward in their path. It's just I feel really lucky. I have the greatest job.
Yeah, as coaches, it's a privilege to help people. I get such a kick out of seeing the improvement that a person makes simply because they, like you said, that you're able to kind of take a step back and look at the whole person and say, well, okay, yeah, we need to kind of tweak this, and then you can just completely get unstuck. A bit like when you're talking about bicycling, you've got to keep your gears nice and clean and free from garbage so that the wheel runs properly. Because otherwise, if you don't look after your gear system, you can't get up the hill.
Yeah, I just flow versus friction is what I say, right? That, but you got to identify where the friction is or the boulders are, right? And sometimes, they're not always these giant, obvious boulders. Sometimes they're these pebbles that are tripping you up, and you can't see them.
Yeah, that's right. When you're in it, you're in your life. We don't often take the time to kind of step back and go, yeah, it's actually this little bit in here that needs work. And like you were saying earlier on about you might be demotivating your team because of the way you approach things, even though you're doing really, really well. Your team isn't doing that well, but you can't see that until you actually take a step back, or you get someone to take that step back with you to kind of help you see what's going on.
Yeah, to understand first off how you're coming across, because especially high performers, right? We expect everybody else to be at the level that we're at. And if they don't believe they'll ever be at that level, then they're like, why try? Right. So we could be demotivating them, or we can think we're communicating very clearly. And this is a very common one. And I often, a phrase I use with my clients a lot is they didn't complete the sentence, because something's in your head so much, it's so clear to you, but you're not able to take that clarity and translate it in a way to give others clarity. So I spend a lot of time with my clients on effective communication.
Why do you think people don't ask for clarity? Using the example, you've got somebody who's running a team and they're talking at kind of different levels, and the people in the team will not necessarily going to go, listen, boss, I don't really understand what you're saying. Can you help me get clarity on what we need to go?
Well, I mean, I think there's two sides, right? I mean, I think as a leader, when you live with something in your head so much, as I said, I have a graphic I use. Like, you have a PhD, and there's like this tall giant with equations, and there's this little girl saying, "Want to play?" You're at different languages. They have a PhD in what they know, but they don't have a PhD in what you know, and that inability to do that. But because you live in it every day, you think it's common, right? It's to you, it's common. And I think people not saying, "I don't understand." There's the fear of looking not knowing, fear of looking bad. The leader might not have created a culture of that. The leader doesn't have the best practice of asking them to play it back to them to make sure, and willing to be vulnerable and saying, I'm not sure if I played that right. So the leader needs to be willing to be vulnerable and ask for clarity as a best practice, and create a culture where people can say, I don't understand, and not worry about being judged. So there's so many dynamics to it. There's really not one size fits all, right? It's really, they have to get better at communicating. They have to have the confidence to ask for clarity. The team needs to feel safe to ask questions. I mean, it really is not always a one simple thing. It's really understanding the entire dynamic.
So, do you work mainly one to one, or do you have courses available for people as well?
Right now, I do one-to-one, but we are working on a course right now. Don't have a date for that yet. So right now, either the companies hire me for one-on-one, or individuals hire me, and we will be having a class coming out. We're working on it. Actually, we were working on it yesterday. So we will see. My brand is Dare to Be. I had a different name, and it was a funny LA freeway sign that made me realize I had the wrong brand. And so, I dare people to be the greatest version of themselves. And so some of it, you need, it takes a lot of bravery to be the best the best version of yourself. and you don't have to be brave alone. And so we'll be creating a group program where you can be with other people who want to do it, as well as the one-on-one. And then eventually there'll be online classes as well. So it's all an evolution that we're working on right now.
Sounds like, something that I could do to be on with, actually, to be honest with you. Where's the best place people can reach out to you, Alison?
Well, right now, if they're looking to, I'm putting together an article that should be published in the next 2 weeks about the 8 ways, skill set and mindset that we get in our own way, and how to start, and the antidotes for that. So if they go to I Dare to Be More using the number 2, they can sign up the mailing list and they can get it as soon as it's off the press. So idaretobemore.com will get you a link to get on my mailing list, and you will get the article in July about how to identify and get out of your own way.
I will put that link in the show notes. Listen, we've got to run soon, Alison. Any final thoughts, any final words before we finish today?
No, I want to thank you for having me. I enjoyed our chat and our time together.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Alison. So listen, folks, thanks for watching. I'll put Alison's details in the show notes, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for your time. Bye now.